It was an early afternoon, and Max had just returned home, and when he stepped inside, he said, "Mom, I'm home." He always get a response back from his mom, but no response at all. And he knows that his mom is home because he saw her car on the driveway when he came home in his car. But maybe she was doing something that she didn't actually heard it from the first time. But as he was walking in the hallway, he heard crying. So he followed the sound and came to the living room. And there he found his mom sitting on the couch crying. "Mom, what's the matter? What's wrong?" he asked. But somehow his mom didn't even acknowledge that he was even standing there, or even asked her. So he walked up to her and said, "Mom, what's the matter?" A bit louder. Somehow it snapped out of it like a trance. She looked at her son while still crying and said, "Max, he's gone." "What? Who is gone?" "Your dad," she said while crying. And he assuming that the worst. "Wait, you mean he's..." Then she shook her head and said, "No, he isn't dead. But he left us." "What?" And that was the Max just of the shock. Just sat down on the chair behind him. It's like, what do you mean? Just left us? Turns out that after he went to school, Max's dad told his mom that he had actually a suitcase with him, and she first maybe thought that he was going to do from a business trip, which he did from time to time. But when he said, "No, I'm leaving," she was curious and asked what he meant by it. Turned out, Max's dad had enough of his marriage with Max's mom, and he was also even showed her some papers of divorce. He had already filed it, and he was just took some of his clothes and some personal items and decided just to leave. Turned out, while he was married with his mom for at least about a part of a year, between when he was 16, but when Max was 16 until I would say 17, his dad had been seeing another woman, a younger woman, probably in her early 30s. And Max's mom was trying to pleading her husband to not to do this. They have a son together. And Max's dad just like, "I don't care anymore. You can take care of him. I'm tired of to have look after a teenage son." And then he just left house, and Max grabbed his own phone and tried to call his dad. But no avail. His dad has even blocked his own son's number. He could not believe it. Max was now devastated. He had always looked up to his dad as a role model, as like a hero. But now, just out of the blue, just packed some stuff and left. Max gave his mom this biggest hug that he ever could and told her they will make it pull it through. And that same afternoon, after he tried that he did to comfort her mom as best as he could, he went to his room and just lay on the bed, devastated, shocked, angry, upset, all at the same time. And it's like, how can he even do this? What in his mind did he just decide to just leave his own family like that for a younger woman? His dad was around in his mid-40s, and he decided to just leave for someone who is around almost 10 years younger than himself. And he said to himself, if my dad ever tried to come back, I don't want to have nothing to do with him. That same moment, the phone called, the ring. It was his best friend, Peter. Hey Peter, what's up? Nothing much. Something matter, Max? Yeah, you can say that much. What's the matter? He said. Well, long story short, Dad's gone. Whoa. What do you mean gone? Then Max told them everything. Whoa, he just did that? Yep, pretty much. Wow, I cannot even imagine that's like, he said. Well, I, I prefer to be alone for a time now. No worries, dude. I get it. I get it. I would have done the same thing as if it happened to me, though. But if you want to talk, I'm here for you. You right? Thanks, thanks, Peter. I appreciate it. Then he hung up, and since this was on a Friday, so he didn't have to go to school the next day. The whole weekend, he decided just to be by himself. Of course, he and his mom tried to move on from this. And by the next week, when Max went back to school, he found Peter by his locker and it's like, "Hey, how's you doing, buddy?" As best as anything could be. Then another friend of his, Claire, walked up to him. He had even told Claire, but Peter had. Um, hey, Max. Hey, Claire. Um, Peter told me. And then Max looked at Peter and he said, I'm sorry, Max. It's fine, dude. I, it would have eventually came out then anyways. So, I don't mind. I just feel sorry about it. Yeah, I mean, it came as a shock to me as well. Yeah, but, she nodded. And she gave him a hug and said, if you wanted to do something, just give me a call, right? He nodded. Then the rest of the school day was just perfectly normal. But it wasn't like lunch break when he was in with Peter and Claire at the cafeteria to use having a lunch. They were just talking when suddenly, oh, so I heard. Your dad left your mom for a younger woman. Isn't that true? That was Vanessa. Vanessa was a girl around the same age, around 17. She was known as a school bully. Even when he heard that, he's like almost made a face like, not now, Vanessa. He said, was like, he made that kind of a face, but his friends exactly knew what he meant. But Peter was like, Vanessa, please just go. Be quiet. I didn't even talk to you, she said, almost a grin. But Peter just said once again to telling her to leave. But she ignored him. Even Claire tried. She ignored her. And then she tried once again with Max, but tried to get a response from him. And all he said just, Vanessa, shut up. Leave now. But she didn't even bother that. It's like, she started laughing. It's like, your dad was like a coward. And I can understand why he left your mom, because she's so stupid and ugly. For some reason, that snapped him to almost anger. He just suddenly stood up and said, turned around and looked at Vanessa. She wasn't even prepared for this. But she looked scared, and for the first time, it was what she deserved. But Max knew exactly what not to do. He just stood there and said, Vanessa, just for goodness sake, leave me alone and never talk about my mom like that. I know my dad left us, but does it give you the right to do this? Please. But then she laughed. It's like, oh, look at this guy. He's crying because of Mama's boy, she said. But then Peter just stood up and said, even if he is just a Mama's boy, that's a definite bother to him. What if your dad left your mom like that? How would you even felt? Ha, is that even going to happen? Well, it could, said Claire angrily. People stood sitting around like they even told Vanessa just back off and leave. Leave them alone. She tried to tell them to mind their own business, but it didn't work. Everyone told her just being quiet or just sit down and just ignore them or just mind her own business. Despite how many times anyone tried. But she just ignored them. But eventually, she just left the room and just went off. Max sat down again and he was tired. Because that weekend he didn't really get much sleep after what his dad just did. So Max, after school was over, he just drove home. His mom was not home at the moment. She was out for do some shopping, but he just lay on the couch, just staring up to the ceiling, thinking what his dad just did. In fact, during that weekend, Max and his mom actually took all of his dad's remaining belongings and even photos and burned those in the backyard because now that was a bad chapter in their lives that they didn't want nothing to do with him. Even if he returned, they would not want to do anything with his dad ever again. And in fact, that same evening, Max got a call from Peter. Hey, Max, I just been wondering if you wanted to do something for this weekend. Uh, I, I don't know. Hey, Claire and I are actually decided to go to the mall. You wanna just tag along? I mean, it's okay if you don't want to do, but you know what? Yeah, I probably do that, he said. Great. We will go to the mall around after school is over. Sounds like a good plan? Yeah, let's do that, said Peter, said Max. The rest of the week, things went actually kind of back to normal. But despite that, Max still felt betrayed by his dad suddenly to move out like that. But eventually, by the end of the same week, Max had actually moved on and decided, screw his dad, what he did was the worst. And even if he did try to come back, he nothing wanted to do anything with him. And in fact, his mom had even changed the lock on the door, while the back and the front door, so that if his dad would even try to come back home, he wouldn't be let in. And that same next weekend, on Friday, Max went with Peter and Claire to the mall, just to hang out, just have a good time. They went to the game shop stores, even to the pet store, and just having a good time. But when they were at this food court, it was just him and Claire sitting while Peter was using the restroom. Claire told Peter Max that she felt sorry for him, and she had no idea how she had responded or even reacted after what happened to her, or if it happened to her. But then, as they were sitting there, they heard a voice behind them. Oh, so here you are, lovey-dovey couple. Both made a grin face as they looked at each other and realized Vanessa. Vanessa was her at the mall with some of her own friends, and they made the same response back. Well, more like a cheerleading, like a group of parrots, which as Math called them later on, though. Vanessa, why don't you even try to bother us? Oh, so you were trying to defend your little girlfriend? She is not my girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend. She's my friend. Yeah, girl, a friend. Yeah, girlfriend. Vanessa, even if that's true, at least she has more backbone and more sense than you do. That shocked Vanessa. I was like, how dare I? Listen, and if any guy would even want to date you, they had to either be blind or stupid. Because who wants to be dating a school bully? Who is want to date you? She was so obnoxious. She was so outraged because you're bullying anyone. And like I said, if the person wants to date you, had to be blind. And just then Peter showed up and he actually heard some of the conversations. Like, yeah, if the guy would even want to date you, I feel sorry for him. Well, if the internet guy would even find out about you, he would probably dump you right away. As that happened. My family's rich, and if a guy want to date you for because of your money, well then he's a gold digger, not a real boyfriend," said Peter, shockingly laughing about it. But before she could even respond back, Max, Peter, and Claire just stood up and just walked off. But Vanessa had one single sentence left to say. "I will see you next time," she said. But it was nothing that they can do. Because a lot of students had been bullied by Vanessa at school. But no one actually had ever had been able to stand against her. Because she and her, as what she called squad, the girls that she was around, always made sure that no other student would even told the teachers or the principal about her bullying. Because the school has non-bullying policy, meaning if a student being bullied twice, you will get suspended for a week or 2 weeks, and if you get caught third time, you will get immediately expelled permanently. So far, no one actually ever been able to stand up against Vanessa, well, except for Peter, Max, and Claire. But they hadn't even done anything like just telling her to back off. But telling anyone else, like a teacher or even their own parents, no. And having her bullying her friends, Max and his friends outside school, that was nothing that anyone could have done. But Peter's like, I hope that one day that someone actually could just commit to realize what she's doing is absolute wrong. But Claire's like, yeah, is that is gonna happen? You notice seeing how she acts? And from what I heard, some of the students at the school actually wanted to tell anyone, but every time she they tried, they either saw one of their some of Vanessa's squad around and bullying them, or at least terrifying them enough not to want to tell. Even their own parents for that. I cannot understand why. Well, can you blame them now? No, I don't, said Peter and Max. It just... why? I don't understand why. I mean, we knew Vanessa back in the middle school, and she was very shy, very inward. She was really shy, and she was even that outgoing. I don't understand what actually happened. Well, I had a theory, said Peter. Oh, well, what was it? What is it? High school syndrome. High school syndrome? Max asked about him. Well, if I had to say this in more better description, she possibly thought that when she's got into high school that she would do anything as possible to be popular. She probably felt that she has the right to tell who is a nerd, who is a popular student, and that popular should only be allowed to talk to popular students, and nerds should be nerds. And well, basically, she tried to claim that she is this high school's unofficial queen or ruler, even though that the principal is way higher up her. But yeah, that was something she more likely said from seen from movies or TV shows, said Claire. Yeah, we had to make sure that doesn't even happen though. However we do it, said Peter. Anyone who tried, they had always either been scared enough by her friends, or even dropped out of high school. You remember Eric, right? Yeah, said Max. Eric was another guy that went to the same high school, but he dropped out just shortly after he started the same year as when he had just turned 17. He dropped out because he was constantly bullied by Vanessa and her friends. Yeah, that's horrible, said Claire. He was a really friendly guy, and I understand why he was targeting him for that. Well, I think I know why. They target anyone as they see things are either weak mind in their eyes who is weak, stupid, and easy target. But those who are really strong, confident like us, yeah, we are not that easy to be target. So that is always what they are mostly focused on. Well, the weak ones that they're seeing. But it's hard to say who is gonna be the weak one or not. And it's only a matter of time before she does go too far. Yeah, that's true, said Claire. After they left the mall, Peter drove home both Max and Claire, and they actually just have a good time. Since Peter actually drove them home, since Max's car was actually being in for some repairs. That same afternoon, Max got a call from Claire. They were just having a small conversation about the day they had, and they even talked some about what they talked about Vanessa. But then Claire had something to tell Max. She informed him that she actually had a crush on him. He was stunned, and he asked her if she was quite serious about it, and she confirmed she were. And he then asked if she maybe would like to go out with him, to see if there's actually a spark between them. It turned out even Max had a small crush on Claire. And in fact, he had actually been in love with her since they first started high school. Then she said yes. But they decided to keep this as a secret because, well, maybe Peter could have been told, but otherwise anyone else would have been not have been told. Just they wouldn't even have been an official couple at the moment. So they decided to go out the next day, which would be a Saturday. And they actually decided just to go to the movies, and they actually did, and they had a great time. They actually watched a romance movie, which, even though Max was not much a big fan of romance movies, but he would always do something that he would even go to the movie to see the movie, despite he didn't like those movies. But it was one romance movie that he actually did accept: Titanic, the first original Titanic movie he did. But despite that, after they went on their first date, they actually had realized they actually did have a spark. So they continued going out on dates, and after they had been dating for about maybe 3 weeks, they told Peter. And he was not about much surprised. After all, he kind of had a feeling that they were in love with each other. Just he didn't want to be like the third wheel, or he doesn't want to kind of to be expressed the right away, or as he word said, that he didn't want to make a false statement or rush into false. Well, he didn't just want to express that he didn't want to say them that to make everyone to believe that they were dating right away, since he didn't want to give false hope for Matt's best. But it didn't take long for the whole school to find out, since after they had been dating for about almost 3 months, they actually made it official. But it was only one girl at the school that was really not happy about it. That was Vanessa. Because Vanessa, she was very furious about this, for a good reason in her mind. And that would have been that Max was popular, but Claire was not according to her rules that she was not a popular. She was a nerd class. Meaning Max and Claire would not have been allowed to be dating. So she decided to focus her target on Claire for big time. But at first Claire doesn't even care or even she was even bothered by her attempt. But it only gets worse and worse from that. She started calling her some really nasty names and nasty words, but at first they didn't even bother her. But soon, sometimes Vanessa had her friends surrender Claire and start calling her bad names, but some of them actually looked out for teachers or any others. At first, Claire didn't say this to anyone, not even her boyfriend, Max. But eventually she did, and Max was outraged. How dare she even do that? he didn't know that, he said. I don't understand why. But now he had enough. And in fact, he decided to make a plan. He told Claire and Peter about this particular plan, and it worked out perfectly. Their minds, this was gonna work. It was that she was gonna wear something that could fit her phone in her chest pocket, so that they could be filming Vanessa and her friends, so they could have it as some evidence against her and her friends until to the principal. And even though it didn't take long for it to happen, though, because one early noon, when Claire was in the hallway, suddenly Vanessa and her squad showed up, surrounded her, and started calling the same names as usual. But Vanessa acted like she was hurt and ran off, which Vanessa did allowed to do. But that happened because shortly after she actually ran into Max and Peter around lunchtime. After they had their lunch, they went straight to the principal's office. Even though the principal was probably busy by the time, but they demanded to get to see him because they had something very important to show him and to telling him. And the secretary at first said that he was quite busy at the moment, but they demanded it wouldn't take long. And it was about one particular rule at the school had. And she asked which one? Bowling. Then she told the principal, and he immediately dropped all of his duties and let them in. So, Max, what can I do for you? He said. Max was actually well outgoing, and he was well respected by the students and the teachers. He was actually even among the few students at the school was a tutor, and that had earned his respect among the teachers. Well, principal, we have a big problem that we need to tell you. So, the secretary said there was something about bowling. Yes, this might take a little bit of a while. This is a kind of long story, but, well, it's about a student and her friends who have been doing this. Oh, to which students that she had been doing to? Well, first, among the students is my girlfriend Claire, which is her, he, and many others, including one that student that dropped out, Eric, if you remember. Eric. Oh yes, him. Ah yes, that was sad day it happened. He was a very talented student. But then they showed him the recording, and the principal's face went from shocked to most pure anger. I cannot believe this. Then they actually told the principal that they needed to have Vanessa and her friends summoned in. And and thanks to Peter and Max, they know exactly name of all of Vanessa's friends. And they summoned them, all of them, into the principal's office. But that was until like after they had left. And in fact, principal was told by Peter that maybe the best to call their parents, to have their parents there in the office while they were being there. And the principal thought that was a good idea. So after that Max and Peter and Claire had left, they even gave the principal a copy of the video recording that they made on the phone. Shortly afterwards, Peter, Claire, and Max heard from other students that they had seen both Vanessa's and her friend's parents just showed up, walked into the principal's office. Shortly after that, announcement came on the speakers about the girls needed to be come to the principal's office. Everyone who saw it happen, they walked by. It's like, oh, someone's in trouble. Vanessa looked so embarrassed, but she believed maybe there was just something wrong, because she didn't even know that her parents was even at the office when she got there. Let's say that they were not happy and they were shocked, and despite what they tried to deny, they had nothing to do with this, but the principal showed them an evidence. That was enough for her and her friends to be immediately expelled. But they still tried to deny it had nothing to do with that, but it was too late. So Vanessa and her friends was now expelled. And it didn't take long for the students to find out what happened, and exactly why. And some of the students that actually have been being bullied by Vanessa and her friends actually walked up to Peter, Max, and Claire and thanked them. They thanked them for doing this to stood up against Vanessa's tyranny, which they call it. And it was in fact, it was kind of some sort of tyranny. And the last one they heard that Vanessa and her friends were sent to a school for troubled kids. And that was about the punishment that they deserved. And what happened for Peter, Max, and Claire and the rest of the students? Well, they had a very much rest of the school year, and even though they finished high school, it went perfectly fine. No more bullying for no other students. Peter, Max actually went to the same college in a state town over, while Claire went to another college. But after they actually finished college, Peter and Claire and Max went back to move to the same hometown, while Max and Claire decided they wanted to get the next step in their relationship, so they moved in together in a small apartment. After they had been living together for about almost 2 years, they decided they wanted to get married. So they actually got married in a small courthouse. They didn't even want to have a big wedding, but they had Peter as a witness and as kind of quote-unquote best man, and a friend of Claire as her witness and bridesmaid. And people just happy that they'd be with the one they loved the most of all in the entire world. And after being married for about a year, Max and Claire announced they were expecting their first baby over the next few months. And everyone was just really happy. They were expecting a boy, which they later named Peter, after Max's best friend, who also became the godfather. And only a few years later, they actually even had a daughter, which they named Gloria, after Claire's late grandmother. Both Max and Claire could not have been happier for all this happened. Despite what they went through in their high school years, with that particular when Vanessa and her friends, it was a horrible time, but they went through it and they passed it. But during this time though, Max never saw his dad ever again, which he would even wish that he never did happen though. But anyways, Max and Claire were just happy to have their family together. And this is how Max and Claire, from the true love, got a big family together. The end.